Hello, my astrology friends. This is Lada from astrolada.com. And my guest today is Krasi Attasio, who uses sidereal astrology or Babylonian astrology, also known ancient astrology, to lead us through the month of October, which is telling me it's very epochal, very big changes. Can you tell us, Krasi, what is happening?
Yes,
according
3, 4, 5 big celestial events, Wada. We have the first two of them are the two eclipses. Everyone knows about them because everyone speaks about these two eclipses. This is logical. These two eclipses are happening. The first one is the solar on the 14th of October and is happening on the axis of already Pisces Virgo. This is because the lunar nodes, this is the second event, the lunar nodes on the 6th, 7th of October change signs. They move. Rahu, the head of the dragon, is entering Pisces, and Ketu, the tail of the dragon, is entering Virgo, and they will stay there 18 months, and as usual, they will move retrogradely. So the first eclipse is on the 14th of October. And I want to give you a little bit of ancient Babylonian perspective, because the ancients would really observe with naked eye the eclipses. Of course, the common name is that the eclipses are very dramatic, but still they were really observed by the astrologer. And especially I often give this example because I love it. Sargon the Great is known that in his ziggurat he would have this tower, and with his team of astrologers would observe the eclipses, and they would have the diaries. They would book down the omens around every eclipse, which is omen is deviation from the expected, right? So we've got the first eclipse on the 14th of October happening right on the 27th degrees of Virgo in the vicinity of the star Spica. In a moment, I will say 2-3 words about that. Not too much, because we also need to look through the 12 ascendants. And then we have the second eclipse, which is the lunar one, on the 28th, 29th of October. And it is happening, I think it was 7 degree, it's the lunar full moon. Of course, we see 7 degree Virgo this time and 7 degree Aries. So 2 eclipses.
Sorry, Virgo and Pisces.
Sorry, not Virgo. See what I said, apologies. They happen in Libra, Aries, excuse me.
Sidereal Libra and Aries. Oh, by the way, Krasi is offering just those 2 weeks discounted reading, especially on the eclipses, because eclipses are the most fated events always. Usually some of the most important events happen on eclipses, if the eclipse affects something in your chart. So if you'd like to know that, for a 40-minute live reading with Krasi, it's only $120, down from $140. I'll put a link below in the description if you'd like to contact Krasi for this promotion that she's offering, especially for the eclipses.
Thank you, Wada. The eclipses are important because they're like portal for change. That's why the ancients would observe them with such attention. Now, the second eclipse is happening in degrees, which are also very interesting. And we know from the 7 to the 10 degrees of Aries, for example, we've got projection of Chiron, the Centaurus, he's the healer. Interestingly, you see, this is where the second eclipse is happening. I will say a bit more about both eclipses. Now, very briefly, first, how the ancients looked at eclipses. Actually, we had very long conversation with you. We even had a webinar on your channel only on eclipses of the ancients. Anyhow, briefly, the eclipse is happening we look at which watch is taking place. This is the third night watch, which says actually that the eclipse the duration of the influence of this eclipse will be 3 months and 10 days. Of course, we do not look solely at one eclipse. We take them as a couple, as a corridor, like contemporary people call this. Secondly, this particular placement of the eclipse means diminishing market. It means these eclipses will hit the markets. They will have a bit hard effect on the markets of the world, especially, I will tell you where, because the eclipses are happening, we have on the sky, according to the ancients, 3 celestial paths, path of Anu and Leo and Ea. Each path, wherever the eclipse is taking place, this path has to do with certain area of the world. And because the eclipse, both actually eclipses are taking place on the path of Anu, this path of Anu is directly linked to ancient Akkad. This particular placement is responsible for contemporary Europe. So I expect, unfortunately, that the eclipses will have the hardest impact on Europe. Doesn't matter that the first solar eclipse is not really visible from Europe. The second is. The second is visible through North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Australia, almost everywhere. So then the first eclipse on the 29th lunar day is happening in the month of Tishri, which is responsible for the part of the world which is covering is Russia. So it will have somehow impact related to diminishing markets on Russia. This is about the first eclipse. Because this is the axis of Virgo and Pisces, of course, and this is the first since many years, because the previous 2 years, all the time, sidereally, we had eclipses on the axis of Libra, Aries. Sorry for my previous mistake, it was very automatic. Now this is the big change. And here I'll open brackets. I will speak about this a little bit shortly, but a little bit later. It is about the changes of the positions of the lunar nodes. This is why now we are starting a cycle of eclipses. Most of them will take place for the next 2 years on this sidereal axis, astronomical axis of Pisces, Virgo, because, you know, the lunar nodes, when they move to certain sign, they take with themselves also the eclipses. This is how it works. That's why every motion of the lunar nodes is so important, because it is very, like you said, faithful. Now also, yeah, I say, like, these are the 2 areas of the world where we'll have the big influence. Then we've got second eclipse, like I said, 7° Libra, 7° Aries. Yes, this is the head of the Aries. This can, and I said Chiron, the healer. And also, listen here, the interesting thing of this particular placement of the eclipses, they say, and the sick will recover. So this eclipse will not really bring devastating health news, because many people are concerned with second pandemic. I don't think so. I think other agenda is ahead. Not really, truly. These eclipses will not bring devastating dramatic events related to health. But of course, Chiron, like the Centaurus, the healer, was related to alternative medicine. He is ruling the philosophers, people who are healers. Somehow, what above, so below, this eclipse will influence such people, and depends on their vibration. Whether it can be good, it can be bad. You know, everything depends on our personal vibrations. That's why I remember one time with you we spoke that the collective events, celestial events, always give the low vibration, because most of the people are not yet awake to manifest the high vibration. If they do, then we will get really the high vibration of, let's say, of Mars, which will not be war, which will be growth, ambition, beautiful energy. You know, it will be totally different. So anyway, again, this eclipse is on the 13th lunar day, and the month Arachsamna are related to Akkad, Russia, and also, again, evening watch, I mentioned very briefly, and it is again the path of Anu, which is Akkad, Europe. Both eclipses, doesn't matter that they will be seen throughout the world, will have impact on Europe, Russia markets, and so on. Now, the first eclipse is happening in the vicinity of the star, beautiful star Spica. I don't see this as darkening speak. I see this as a portal for change. Like on one hand, this would trigger further limitation of free speech. Yes, most probably because speech, commerce, yes, this can have bad impact on markets, indeed. But on the other hand, speaker is the most gorgeous, beautiful spiritual star and can trigger further awakening, like truly, not as a cliche, not like a new age trend, not at all. You know what I mean? It can be really about a portal for change, for true awakening, see through, what the matrix may try to cover and hide and suppress free speech, because this is possible since the star speaker will be affected. So this was just very briefly. Also, just 2 words about, because people will be devastated eclipse. No, ancients, not without a reason, had rituals to revert the evil from the eclipses. Yes, eclipses are evil most of the times. And unfortunately, this time also good star is not watching. I always have hope when I see Jupiter trining, Venus sextiling, or even squaring, then I say, good planet is watching me. This time I didn't see that, but the ancients would have their rituals. You, according, I say this to people, you, according to your own culture, philosophy, background, you can come up with your own fantasy ritual for good, prayer, to revert the evil from the eclipses. The ancients would have their diviners, Baru, priests, they were called Kalu, Ashipu, the exorcists. They had one very funny ritual, not very funny, for the person was not funny. If they would see that the person would be, the king would be in danger, you know what they do? They do substitute. They take some poor guy from the street and they would substitute the king for the time being until the eclipse is in power, and then they would kill him, because they say, oh, the eclipse didn't take the king, but took the substitute. So this was one...
But we can't trick fate like that nowadays.
No.
What is your advice during eclipses? If, for example, the eclipse falls right on my husband's ascendant opposite my sun, what would be your advice?
First, absolutely no panic, no worries. Eclipses we have all the time. There is not even one person who said didn't feel the influence of eclipse. We all know actually what eclipses are. Don't watch the eclipse, because I have very bad experience. I cannot forget it, Wada, during eclipse, how I will be driving with my children through the forest. Suddenly at night, I was trying to escape the eclipse to get home before the eclipse. Suddenly at night, I see the moon being eclipsed. My car lost all electricity on the middle of a mountain forest road. Deep night. It was dark like in a rock. You cannot imagine. It was eclipse, right? Yes, don't watch the eclipse if you can. Even we shouldn't expose food or water and later drink it, because this is also not appropriate. Just pray, be very calm. Ask, the universe, the spirit world to reverse the evil for you. But absolutely without do something good for others. Exactly, to show that you are on the side of the good ones, help others, do something good, make your small ritual with candles, whatever your culture is teaching you, really, because this would be very different for different philosophies. But certainly, if you give too much energy into this, like to worry, then you're feeding this energy, and doesn't really doesn't help. But with the prayer, meditation, you will feel what is the right thing to do. Because we all know once we apply our intuition. But when you are worried, when you're very scared, you cannot apply intuition because you block it. Nothing devastating. Your husband had this before, so.
I remember watching the eclipse of the moon one night. I woke up in the middle of the night, and it was so powerful. And a month later, I left my husband. It was falling right on something important in my horoscope. So it says a big event will be happening if it affects something in your horoscope.
But when you know you're careful. Wada, you know, when we had the eclipses in 2019 at 17 on the axis of Capricorn, it was Capricorn Cancer. I remember I was warning everyone around me, knowing clients and people who I know that they have this axis on ascendant descendant, to be careful not to do anything on this day. And imagine, I forgot to warn my father. That day, I forgot because he's at home with me, and I wouldn't imagine that day, Wada, he was fixing the door with one big machine, and the machine cut his finger. Just jumped out, just out of nothing, out of nowhere. The machine jumped out of his hands, and of course, immediately, I was not at home. My mother brought him to the emergency. They stitched the fingers, but this was a nightmare. Imagine, this was the day of the eclipse, falling right on the degree of his ascendant.
Oh, wow.
But because I didn't warn him, but now we know, we say to people, they know, they will hear, they will know. You do not have to do extreme steps, risky actions during the eclipse. Just if I would say to my father, just do nothing, rest, watch television, this wouldn't have happened. I just forgot to tell him. Imagine, I said to everyone I knew, I forgot to say to my own father. So look,
sometimes if something has to happen, it will happen.
True. He's fine, of course, but his fingers were stitched back. Can you imagine? It was very extreme. So eclipses, yes, we just need to be more careful not to do a lot, especially when this is happening right on your ascendant, right on your moon, right on your sun, right on your ascendant ruler. Let's say you're ruled by, let's say the eclipse is happening in Libra, you're ruled by Venus, and the eclipse is happening on your Venus, for example. You have to be a little bit more careful. And with knowledge, you can change a lot. This is what's the purpose of us announcing and reading horoscopes? Just to warn people so that they are more careful, not to scare anyone. No.
Thank you, Krasi. Right? So this is the change of according to Babylonian zodiac, the fixed zodiac, the axis of the north and south node is changing to a new sign, and 2 eclipses.
Yes, and briefly, 2 words. Of course, on the 6th, 7th of October, Rahu enters Pisces, Ketu enters Virgo. These seem to be comfortable placements of Rahu Ketu because, first of all, when you take it from the fact that Jupiter is the only one who can be in control of both, you know, Rahu and Ketu, because Jupiter is very kind, patient, philosophical, and this is exactly what Rahu needs. Rahu in Pisces will change our drive. Of course, when we talk about high vibration, this will be very beautiful, very spiritual, very much into healing, observing, more knowing. The low vibration of this is extreme religion, extremes in any religion, extreme in any philosophies, you know, illusionary stuff, illusion and fears in relation to health, disease, you know, because this is the ruler of the 12th house. Ketu at the same moment will be in Virgo. Ketu is exactly what we will be detaching from, which will be routine, and then going into the illusion if we allow this, you know. This is for the next 18 months, and it is very important change, because we will see this change happening to the world, to the collective goals, emotions. Suddenly we will have Rahu in Pisces, which makes Pisces health, spirituality, tempo, empathy, very, very important. These are the things which will matter a lot. And let's not forget that next year in February, Mars becomes visible also for the first time in, I forgot the month. Was it, you know, I forgot which month, 18th of April. I forgot the month where Mars is becoming visible. But next year, Mars is becoming visible in Pisces. Suddenly, Pisces will become very, very important because Mars is also our drive. Of course, if we really opt for the high vibration of both, could be great, Could be that we come up with a lot in relation to spirituality, healing, philosophies, empathy, helping others, and whatnot, you know.
Art, music, it's all Pisces.
Oh, certainly.
Movie industry.
Certainly, yes. And then the third one, the last event, of course, is Mercury. Mercury is now visible. 2nd of October, he is entering Virgo to be exalted, and a little bit later, like a couple of days later, 6th, 7th of October, he will be in a very beautiful position because he will not be afflicted. Otherwise, before that, once he enters Mercury, he makes conjunction with invisible, once he enters Virgo, he makes conjunction with the invisible Mars. But he's beautiful, exalted, a week after the 2nd of October, visible and exalted. Why I say this? Because this will be valid for many people who want to do media project, good sales, good negotiations, even good travel, and you can really benefit from this, and there will be no affliction even, you know, to Mercury. Gorgeous. I will be making Mercurian talismans on this particular work. It's beautiful for any work which is requiring the help of Hermes, knowledge, teaching others, sharing your knowledge, launching new studies, studying something new, or you know, so this was the 30 large event for October. So October is really not so scary, but the key is exactly to try to maintain the high vibrations. Not you can, planets have the high and the low manifestations, you know. It's our choice which one to choose.
Wonderful. Now, maybe you can do the 12 signs now.
Finally. Yes, I've been talking too much this time.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I love listening to you.
Usually I'm much faster.
but you gave us a much more positive view on the eclipses, because sometimes we tend to
yes, that's the point of giving information, is this: you'll be a little bit more careful to avoid this critical moment. And that's why I don't like to say this example with my father, but I had to, because it's a good example of, if I only knew to save him, Wada, this wouldn't ever have happened, you know. But anyhow, so let's look at month of October, the 12 ascendants. Usually, as usual, we look both perspectives, the perspective of the sidereal astrology and also the perspectives of the modern astrology. So starting from Aries, sidereal, or moon in Aries, or if you're following the tropical zodiac, this will be Taurus. Now for you, yes, indeed, the last eclipse on this axis is a little bit afflicting you, like last, you know, before leaving, but you will be maybe relieved because the lunar nodes move away. I don't say that this is bad to have lunar nodes participating on your ascendant, descendant participating in your life, but this is certainly strong energy. And when they move out, and on the first week of October, when they enter the axis of 12th, 6th houses of your horoscope, this will be easier. It will be, you experience certain relief. Now also, the what is beautiful for you in October is, of course, the presence of the exalted and still visible Mercury on your 6th house. He can support very much any routine activity, arrangement of, let's say, paperwork or negotiations. He can be supportive in this sense. Jupiter is still on your ascendant, which makes you kind of protected very much, even though the second eclipse on the 28th, 29th of October will take place on your ascendant. Be a little bit careful on this date, but like I said, I'm very positive that Jupiter is on your ascendant to give you good protection. Venus will be at that time on your 5th house, also to be quite giving you luck, supportive for your finances. Of course, be also a little bit responsible, careful, for your partner, romantic life, again, because of the fact that the second eclipse, a part of the previous eclipse, is happening on the axis of first 7 houses, which involves your relationship too. So be a little bit more, diplomatic, careful, intuitive, not afraid, certainly. But again, you're on the safe side with Jupiter on your ascendant, so don't really worry so much. Mercury will be supportive for your routine work, for your everyday work. So I see no reasons to be afraid. Now we look at people who have sidereal ascendant, Taurus or Moon in Taurus, or if you're following the modern tropical astrology, this would be Gemini. Now for you, the presence of Mercury is good on your 5th house, exalted and also visible in October. He can support your creativity. He can really be a muse. Usually Venus is the muse, but this exalted Mercury can be like great communication, can support knowledge, studies, also knowledge, studies, education of your children. The lunar nodes are moving towards your 11th, 5th houses, where they will be staying for the next 18 months. And this will make you very driven to change actually your social circle, driven to social activities, let's say. This can have good impact actually on your finances, because Rahu on the 11th house is totally not bad. He can make you very driven to new friends, to be more social, or to give you more creative input, exactly, especially related to finances. Now, still Saturn is square in your ascendant descendant during, I will still say you may need to be, of course, a bit more also this month and ahead, intuitive, diplomatic, careful at home with partner, and also career-wise, because you're certainly experiencing important career changes. And this can be still a cycle that can take until 2025. Also, Jupiter is on your 12th house. He's staying there for quite some time still. And you experience the last eclipse on the 28th, 29th of October on the axis of health. So be a little bit more responsible for your health. But this is really the last eclipse of this series. And now we're looking at people who have sidereal ascendant Gemini or Moon in Gemini, or if you're following the modern tropical astrology, this will be Cancer. Now for you, your ascendant ruler, very strong, will be on your 4th house, exalted, visible, gorgeous for, to give you ideas, muse, to study, to teach, to travel, to communicate, to do commercial activity. Depends what is really strong. What of the above listed is strong in your horoscope. So this is very beautiful presence of Mercury in Virgo for you. In the meantime, the eclipses move for you for the next 18 months on the axis of 10th, 4th houses. Actually, this can make you more driven to your career, less driven to home, but more driven to your career place. This can actually bring like good results in relation to new projects, creative ideas, activities when it comes to career. In the meantime, Saturn makes trine to your ascendant, so I think you're fine. You're free from afflictions, I would say. And now we look at people who have sidereal ascendant Cancer or Moon in Cancer, or if you're following the modern tropical astrology, this will be Leo. Now for you, the eclipses are happening on the axis of, once the lunar nodes on the 6th of October move on the axis of Pisces, Virgo, the future eclipses will also take place on this axis. And And this happened to be 9 third houses axis for you. Actually, I don't see this as a bad thing. It can give you very serious drive towards study, philosophies, education, travel. Of course, you need to be a little bit more careful for the next 18 months, even when you travel, when you negotiate, because still this becomes very strong energy on this particular axis. Now, in addition, the last of the eclipses happening on the axis of Aries, Libra, which is your 10th, 4th houses axis, is happening on the 28th, 29th of October. And be a little bit careful when it comes to communication with superiors in your career place. But this is really the last one of this nature, you know, afflicting really your career place. So there you may need to be a little bit careful. I'm sure that you went through a lot. You had many career changes. Also maybe changes related to property, relocation. So be a little bit more careful. But anyhow, this movement of the lunar nodes towards your axis of 9 third houses is benevolent for you. Mercury becomes visible for you and exalted in a good place. This can be good for your studies, communication, brothers and sisters, commercial work. So I don't see this as a bad thing. And now we look at people who have sidereal ascendant Leo or moon in Leo, or if you're following the modern tropical astrology, this will be Virgo. For you, well, you have very good protection from Jupiter, trine in your ascendant. Of course, we know that until end of December of 2025, Saturn will be traveling through your 7th house. It very much depends on the placement of your own Saturn. But of course, just in case, be a little bit careful how you know, intuitive, if you can, forgiving, kind, diplomatic with your partner, with partnerships in general. Now, Mercury will be strong, exalted, visible on your 2nd house. This is fine for your finances for October. Jupiter trines your ascendant, I mentioned, this is fine. The lunar nodes move from your axis of 3rd, 9th houses, which was very much related to your spiritual awakening, for your knowledge. And now they move to the axis of 8 2nd houses. Now, this will be interesting. This can make you very driven to secret knowledge, occultism, secret sciences, and less driven to finances, less driven to communication with family roots. You may need to balance this axis, otherwise this can afflict a little bit your finances in general for the next 18 months. But if you find balance between both, I'm sure that you will be well. And I like the trine of Jupiter towards your ascendant, which to me looks like protection. Also, in October, Venus comes in Leo on your ascendant to stay there for the month. Yes, she's afflicted by Saturn, by opposition, but still Venus on the ascendant is a beautiful thing for your well-being, for the way you feel, for your romantic life, also for your finances. Yes, I admit the affliction, but still Venus is quite strong in Leo for many reasons. And now we look at people who have sidereal ascendant Virgo or moon in Virgo, or if you're following the modern tropical astrology, this will be Libra. Now for you, well, the first thing is, of course, that right now and also until especially the first week of October, Mercury will be visible and also exalted on your ascendant. And this is good. This can give you a like desire to travel, to study. This can be benevolent for new study projects, for new commercial projects. This can be fine for your finances. Now, the lunar nodes move right on the axis of your ascendant descendant. Ketu comes on your ascendant, Rahu comes on your descendant, and this brings naturally the eclipses for the next 18 months for sure, which means that the during this next 18 months, of course, because the eclipses on one hand will happen on this particular axis, you may need to be a little bit more careful, especially when you take in risks, especially around the times of the eclipses. Be just a little bit more careful. Don't travel, don't participate in any risky events or situations. Also, you around eclipses, you may feel that your luck is temporarily locked. Don't worry, this is how it works. Usually eclipses are portal for change, and they can slow down our lives in order to show us other future opportunities. But usually we don't like this, because this is our nature on one hand. And secondly, this is how it works. Now, of course, Mercury, visible, exalted in your ascendant, is a good thing. Now, in addition, you have Jupiter still, on your 8th, second house axis. This is fine for money via partnership or finances of the partner. So you have also the protective moments in your horoscope, of course. But I think you will still go through some important changes because of the changes of the placements of the lunar nodes, and be a little bit more careful for your romantic life, for your partner. Be more forgiving, be more patient during the next 18 months, not only because of the coming eclipses, but due to the placement of the lunar nodes. Now we look at people who have sidereal ascendant Libra or moon in Libra, or if you're following the modern tropical astrology, this will be Scorpio. Now, the last of this nature eclipse is happening on the 28th, 29th of October, happening on your ascendant and descendant, and then you will be relieved from this energy. Temporary for 3 months, you can experience some small still blockage, but then you will be relieved. The moon nodes also move out of your ascendant, descendant. Ketu, who was on your ascendant, moves into Virgo, and Rahu, who was on your descendant, moves into Pisces. Be a little bit more responsible for your health with these particular placements of the moon nodes, but the heavier energy will be forgotten, like you will be relieved, I believe. In addition, the Venus will be in October on the axis of your 11th, 5th houses. Yes, afflicted by Saturn, but on the other hand, she will be supporting children's social life, finances. But yes, because of her affliction, she would require from you a little bit more discipline, a little bit more, let's say time orientation, because Saturn is afflicting. But still, I believe that this is positive. Mercury becomes visible and exalted on your 12th house. He will be in October. And this is fine for your spiritual work, for awakening, for your secret studies, let's say, for your esoteric plans. And now let's see people who have sidereal ascendant Scorpio or moon in Scorpio, or if you're following the modern tropical astrology, this will be Sagittarius. Now for you, the Mercury actually will be visible and exalted on your 11th house, a sextile in your ascendant. This is fine for your social circle, for connections, for your financial plans, for your projects, for your visibility, if you want. This is what you want, this will be fine. Venus will be helpful in October on your 10th house. Yes, she's afflicted by Saturn, which, as I said, for the rest, may require a little bit of more discipline when it comes to work, when it comes to projects, but she will still bring peace and some joy in your career place. She can soften the atmosphere in your career place, help you with projects, so she's beautiful. She will be trained by Jupiter, and this is good for your routine, everyday routine environment. And the eclipses, the lunar nodes move on the axis of 11th, 5th houses for you. Rahu on the 5th will make you very driven to creativity, creative knowledge, pleasure. And Ketu on the 11th will temporarily make you a little bit less social. less desiring to be visible, to have social activities. And of course, during this time, be a little bit more attentive with children. And now we look at people who have sidereal ascendant Sagittarius or moon in Sagittarius, or if you're following the modern tropical astrology, this is Capricorn. Now for you, your ascendant ruler Jupiter is trining you beautifully still. It's protection. This is luck. This I like very much. Now the Mercury, especially in the beginning of October, will be very supportive on your 10th house when it comes to career, when it comes to negotiations, when it comes to new projects, new plans. Mercury will be very strong and will give you strong support, I believe. The lunar nodes change positions, and with this they bring the eclipses on the axis of 10th, 4th houses for you. This may bring changes in relation to what? You may be less interested in career, in work, career, corporate environment, and more interested to be at home, to have your own business. In addition, the fact that the eclipses are taking place on this axis, this can bring modifications and changes in your career for the next 18 months. So this is important. Venus will be trining in October, your ascendant. This is beautiful. Yes, she will be opposed by Saturn, but still the trine by Venus and sextile by Saturn in your particular horoscope is not a bad thing. So I think that you will experience changes mainly to your home, career, business plans, but you will be okay. In the beginning, it may feel a little bit too heavy, too difficult with the eclipses on this particular axis, but later you will see that everything was for good, actually. And now we look at people who have sidereal ascendant Capricorn or moon in Capricorn, or if you're following modern tropical astrology, this is Aquarius. Now, we know already for quite some time, Saturn, who rules you, is on your 2nd house, still very powerful, maybe bringing you important changes in relation to finances, family roots. How exactly this manifests in your horoscope depends on the placement of Saturn in your own horoscope, but I'm sure that he brings important changes in your life. Now, the good thing is that you have the good protection of Jupiter on the 4th house, very stable presence of Jupiter on your 4th house. Now, the lunar nodes move from Libra, Aries axis in Virgo, Pisces axis on 6th, 7th of October. This happens for you to be the axis of education, knowledge, travel, commerce. And Rahu will be on your 3rd house to make you driven to communication, commercial activities, to make you driven, let's say, to more driven to brothers and sisters, or to improve relationships with them, or to revisit certain studies from before, like that. Less driven to high philosophies or high level of education or to long distance travels, but very driven to what I just said. Of course, with this presence of Rahu and Ketu and eclipses on the axis of 39th houses, be a little bit more careful when you travel or when you choose certain study on education. Make sure that you make very balanced, very intuitive choices, especially when you communicate, when you negotiate, when you do commercial activities, when you choose education, or when you travel. Now, Venus is entering your 8th house. This is fine for finances that you may generate through partnership or the finances of your partner. Of course, all this may require high morals and very good discipline, because this is Saturn who is afflicting, and this is what he usually means, and this is what he usually requires. Now, the last eclipse is on the axis of your career place and home, and he may have impact on you for the next 3 months, but after that, you'll be really relieved from this energy, because I'm sure that you went through a lot. Maybe you had important career changes, important changes related to property or relocations for the last 3 years, but you will be relieved from this energy, really, of the lunar nodes on this axis, and also all these repetitive eclipses on the axis of your home. So this is also seriously related. Now, let's see people who have sidereal ascendant Aquarius or moon in Aquarius, or if you're following the modern tropical astrology, this will be Pisces. Now, Saturn is on your ascendant, you know that. And maybe, especially if Saturn is well placed in your horoscope, I'm sure that you have even success, you know, with Saturn on your ascendant, but this will depend on the placement of Saturn. Anyhow, he certainly is bringing important changes. Later on, good or difficult, he will reward you for your patience. That's why it makes no sense to fight, you know, the Saturn in changes, just to be patient, very moral, very disciplined, and later on you will be rewarded for that. In the meantime, Jupiter makes good aspect, and the first appearance of Mercury and his exaltation is on your 8th house. This is supportive for finances, finances of the partner, finances via partnership. This can support your spiritual, esoteric, occultistic searchings, let's say, can support your knowledge, can give you great results if you research, if you study, if you search, if you know, can give you very, very good results, also financial results. Venus is entering your 7th house. She will give blessing on your relationship, on your romantic life. So this is also very fine. And I mentioned, you know, I'm almost ready. Just Pisces is coming and then I'm finishing.
Oh, okay.
Yes, just mentioning.
No, because you stopped for me for a minute, but maybe other people could see you. Sorry.
Oh, I didn't experience stop. I don't know.
Okay, maybe it's just my internet.
Could be, yes. So the eclipses for you happening and the movement of the lunar nodes on the axis of Pisces, Virgo, which happens to be your 2nd, 8th houses axis. This can certainly bring changes related to finances. But if you find balance, if you're because Rahu on the 2nd house can make finances but if you find balance, if you remain very disciplined, intuitive, I'm sure that you will be fine. But just keep in mind when you make financial decisions to be very careful, balanced. Now we look at people, the last ascendant, people who have sidereal ascendant Pisces or moon in Pisces, or if you're following the modern tropical astrology, this will be Aries for you. On 6th of October, the lunar nodes enter your ascendant, descendant. The Rahu will be on your ascendant. Now, with this, be a little bit more careful in your romantic life, your relationship, because Rahu can disbalance a little bit this area. Like we can become a little bit more driven to ourselves, to give less attention to partners, for example. Therefore, be a little bit more careful, diplomatic, forgiving, balanced. This is also because first the lunar nodes, then the eclipses for the next 18 months will happen on this axis. This can have impact on your relationship, a little bit on your personal choices, also a bit career related. So you may need to be, indeed, once you balance this, you will not have troubles. Venus is entering your 6th house to support your routine, your health. Yes. The opposition of Saturn will mean that this will require discipline indeed, but still Venus in the 6th house is very protective and beautiful. And in the meantime, Jupiter in the 2nd would be trining Venus, and this is good for finances, routine. So yes, more or less, this is about the 12th ascendant, Wada.
Thank you so much, Krasi, for your effort, for giving us hope and positive sorry, like it and positive insight. Thank you so much again. And if anyone would like to contact Krasi, I'm putting a link below in the description. She's offering personal reading for the eclipses, how specifically they will affect you. And thank you again, Krasi. Looking forward to see what the eclipses and the changes of the nodes bring to us.